Preston and I were like best friends, almost from the age of 1 when I became a single father. We did everything together. We watched movies. He was a movie fanatic. All he ever wanted to do was just go see a movie on Friday nights or whenever they came out. And we actually made it a tradition every Sunday morning to go watch a movie every Sunday morning when it came out. But we'd stay up late at night in the media room watching movies. So big movie fanatic. He was like a normal kid, though. He also, he played with his big Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, all the figurines and the Power Rangers. That drove me nuts over the years, but he loved playing with all that stuff. And we, as a single father, I did dedicate my time when I had him on the weekends just with me. And, I just remember my parents even saying, "Can we have him?" And I said, "No, it's my time." So, it was my time to spend with him. And just normal childhood, played little sports here and there. Then high school hit, and he had to become popular. And I think because he tried to fit in too much. And that was his biggest issue, is he wanted to fit in with everybody that he could. And he wanted to be the most popular person. And I kept trying to tell him, you don't have to be the most popular person. You're your own self. He would play with friends when they come over, but he always wanted his own time just to hang out. And even with me, when he was with me, I would want to, "Hey, you want to watch a movie together? You want me to game with you or whatever like that?" He said, "No, I got my time." As everybody else does now, Preston was always on Facebook, Instagram. And back then, a few years ago, he was probably on more stuff than I even know about today, that I just do a few myself. But he was always on, and he would always show me, "What do you think about this guy, or the way this guy looks," and see his girlfriend. And, he always was very vain about himself, the way he had to look, he had to present himself. His best friend was his mirror, to be honest. I mean, he always had to look at himself, and he always wanted to see what everybody else was doing in social media. It's a portrayal of everybody has this perfect life. And so he said, "I want this, I want this." And of course, going back to the movies, he saw the movie stars and everything they had. So he wanted that type of life. He wanted the glamour and all the nice stuff and everything. And he wanted to just fit in, even though he liked being by himself. So he followed social media. So as an introvert, Preston basically, he wanted, the way I gotta say this, he loved being alone, doing things on his own. He even loved, even when he got older, just going to the movies by himself. But he enjoyed that. He enjoyed being by himself, but he also wanted to be popular in some way. So he just never really fit in. But the one thing that made him happy was he got a sweetheart, a high school sweetheart. He would always hang out at my house with his girlfriend. They were in love. Your typical romantic high school sweethearts. And everything was great, and then she decided to go off to college. And that broke him. That tore him up. And he went through a lot of sad spells, and, I tried to get him into counseling, and he would try for a couple times more to please me, I think, than anything else. And, that's something that kids nowadays, they're isolating, they're depressed when something happens. When his girlfriend, high school sweetheart, left to go to Texas Tech, she wanted to become a doctor, so she wanted to finish her. And she moved off and said, "Hey, I think it's best we just become friends." Which I tried to tell him, that's normal. She's going off to college. Well, he said, "I'm going to go out there with her." So the second semester, he got into tech. He followed her out there. She still said the same thing. And he was there for about a semester. And he came back, but that's when it really hit him that, oh, wow, it's really over. I followed her out here. She still doesn't want to be together. So he was heartbroken. I mean, it was his first love. And he came back, and he never really changed. So he was living with me. And then I decided that, hey, I'm going to start traveling a bunch back and forth. I started my own consulting company. So I was back and forth from Arizona to Texas. He decided, that's cool. So he moved in with his mom up in Pilot Point. And I said, okay, that's great. So I moved to Arizona and started a new job on January 4th of 2021. Was celebrating, we got some steaks and shrimp and everything. And I got a call on January 5th that from my ex-wife, Preston's mother, and she had called and she said, "Preston's gone." And I said, "Gone where?" And she said, "He's dead." And that just, I mean, I remember going down to the floor on my knees. He was hanging out with his little sister. He was happy, in a good mood. I knew he was in a good mood because he had money in the bank, and that always made him happy. And there were no drugs found. He bought Whataburger, and he went up there and got in his chair to game that night because he had the next day off. And literally, they went upstairs and found him the next morning. His mother did, with one arm slung over, one arm still holding a Whataburger shake. And of course, it took us 8 or 10 weeks to get the autopsy report back. And that's when we got the report that he died of acute fentanyl intoxication. He had 12 milligrams of fentanyl in him. 2 milligrams is what will kill a normal person. And we found out that he had texted to buy a Percocet. And there was no Percocet in his system. It was 100% fentanyl. And I remember coming home, and I talked to his best friend, Andrew, and I said, be honest, we're going to find the results. This is before we got the autopsy. Was he doing hard drugs? Was he doing anything else? He goes, no. He goes, we were in this contest to see who could get in the best shape. They were trying to work out and look good and do all this kind of stuff. So he was in a great mood. They were supposed to go work out the next day. So that's when I first found out about the fentanyl issue. So I was never able to get into his phone. And the only way I could, I called Apple, and they said, you have to get a judge's order, and it never happened. But his sister, somehow she got on the computer, because iPhones and the Macs and all that, she saw some sort of text, I want a perk, or something like that, to somebody. We don't know who the number was or anything, so we've never found out how he got it. Preston was on Vyvanse, which is for ADHD, and he took it. He was diagnosed. That's fine that he took it. I had no problem with it. I was kind of wondering why I didn't take it every day. He said, well, I only took it when I needed it for school because he was going to community college, and I never thought anything about it. But Preston, being the type of person he was, he seemed like he was sometimes always depressed and isolated, but he would come downstairs, and he was in a good mood sometimes. And as a parent, we always want our kids to be happy. I look back now, why was he in a good mood? Why didn't I question that? Why did I let him get away with things? You know, there's 1,000 things still 3 years later that I look at now is what could I have done different? What sort of signs? The biggest sign I would say is, even though he was 25 when he died, and he was still my son living under my roof a little bit before he died, is I was his best friend and I wasn't a parent. And that's the biggest sign, is I wish I would have changed and become a better father. And I let him get away with a lot of stuff. And I didn't push him to really do anything with life. He's like, oh, I'll do this. He tried a lot of different things, but he never found out his purpose and what he wanted to do with life. And I just let it go. I was just trying to be a friend and be there for him. But I wasn't a very disciplinary father. I'll put it that way. After Preston died the first year, I was that father that said, or I was a father, but I said, I'm going to fix the problem. It's coming across the border. I'm going to go. And I contacted every politician. I contacted every police agency, every senator, whoever you can think of. I was going to fix the problem. And I was angry for that first year. After that, that's when I decided the only thing I can do is, as a father, is share Preston's story and the mistake that he made by experimenting with a drug. Now it just turned into where I'm going to schools. I talk to schools, high schools, wherever I can talk. And the biggest thing I tell kids now is, it used to be in my day when you tried drugs, like my parents would say, don't do the hard drugs because you're going to get addicted. I tell them now, there is no more experimenting with drugs. It's death. You know, and I've talked to college students, high schools, and the biggest issue that kids think is they're invincible. It's not going to happen to me. and I know where I'm getting it from. That's one thing I hear all the time. Well, I know where I'm getting it from. Well, of course you do, or you wouldn't get it. But that doesn't mean that that person doesn't know where they got it from. We all know that it starts at the cartel, but by the time it passes around to 15 or 20 different people, nobody knows really where it came from. But I know the DEA last year alone, 7 out of 10 pills that they confiscate are counterfeit now. So you don't know what you're getting. And like I said, Preston had 12 milligrams. 2 milligrams will fit on the end of a pencil. That's normally what will kill a single person. And this is the feedback I get from high schools after the fact, is a lot of the kids will say, I didn't realize it was a poison. We've heard about this fentanyl thing, but what I understand is if I'm going to a party and somebody's passing out pills, I just think, oh, don't give me the fentanyl one. I don't want that one. You don't have that choice nowadays. You really don't. I mean, if you're taking a pill, you're playing Russian roulette. They're also lacing it now in marijuana. There's been 7 deaths in Florida of smoking marijuana because they're dipping it in fentanyl. The vape pens now, McKinney High School, where my son went to high school, there was a girl that got caught with a vape pen. They tested it, had fentanyl in it. People are asking, well, are the stores selling these vape pens? No, these kids are buying them online because you got to be a certain age, so they're buying it off the black market. And that's one thing I do want to specifically say is, with a law that was passed last year now in the state of Texas, if I was to give you a pill and you die from it, I get a murder charge now. And that's the other thing that I present to kids. And that's when parents actually wake up now, is they think, well, first off, my kid wouldn't do anything wrong. Whatever. But I said, and when parents look up now is when I say, here's the other thing, is if your son would have passed that pill to somebody else and they died, now your son's got a murder charge. The best we can do as fathers, as parents, is just to get out there and spread the word about awareness. When the other biggest issue is when we were doing the national parks and people were asking, what are you filming? Why are you doing all this? And I'd say, well, my son died of a fentanyl poisoning. Every parent would say the same thing. Thank God my kid's not a drug addict. And then I would look at them and I say, then you're the one I want to talk to. All I can do is every day, and if somebody watches this video, if one person gets aware of this, of what's happening, then if it saves a life, it saves a life.
What do you miss the most about Preston?
The good times. That's what I miss most about Preston, is the good times, the fun stuff we had. You know, we went scuba diving in Mexico. We, went out to California, checked out all the studios and all that. So that's what gets to me every day, is when I think about the good times we had, because there's not going to be another one with him. And when you ask that, what do I miss most about Preston? People always look at me and they say, you always look like you're mad or sad. And I'll be honest, the reason I get sad and I'm always seem sad or mad is because when I feel good, if I get happy, I feel guilty because I'm still here and both of my children have passed away. First thing I'd say to him is, I miss him. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was not a better father.
Memories of these places concealed until the walls come down. Release